I have put together some notes here tonight on what may be the holy grail of this, of the Mandela effect, and maybe why some of us are winding up in parallel Earths that we didn't come from. And defining the point here, and not to get general about this, because I notice things get a bit general. Like in recent years, people talked about alien DNA or unknown DNA was coming up in some folks, and it became a media sensation, national sensation, and it was really being confirmed that this lady or that guy had something in him that really wasn't of this world. And it just simply couldn't be explained. And then the whole point became rather convoluted when it was then something came up about junk DNA. Started getting pumped in the media a lot. There was junk DNA. It's just junk. Scientists say that everyone on Earth has junk DNA, and then pretty soon that was it. The point gone. Alien DNA doesn't exist. It's just not there. It's just junk DNA. Well, you'd think geneticists would know the difference. Presumably they do. And they know if it's what junk DNA is, and it's a very slangy term. You want to be careful about things like that, like the term false memory syndrome, which personally, from my own research and my thinking on it, from what I've seen, and psychology is not my strong area of my research. There's no such thing as false memory syndrome. That doesn't mean to say your memories are going to be perfectly accurate, but FMS has been passed off to the public as a bona fide fact, when in fact there is nothing to support the existence of false memory syndrome. There are research papers, and this doctor said this, and that doctor said that. You'll get that, and people will post, these papers out there and in support of it. But also too, the way the brain works, synaptic pathways and neurons where memories are, it's all. How memory works, memory being a physical thing, even if it's not completely accurate, like a tape recording. Then the research ran around saying that memories are malleable things, that you can create memories. Well, you can implant something, a suggestion, and say to someone, maybe something happened. But the distinction between memory and something that's been put there is a simple one. An implanted memory hasn't any feeling to it. You could hypnotize someone and make them believe. A friend of theirs in school they knew many years ago, they've lost contact with, died, and they will, you'll see them grin. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, he died. There isn't any feeling in that. A real memory of a real event follows with a lot of real feelings and emotions. And that generally, an actual event of someone that died in your past, and you know that, and let's say you've had amnesia and then remembered it many years later, still has the same reaction from the person recalling the memory. He died. I remember that. Oh, yeah. Oh, funeral. Yeah, the feelings on how that was. I mean, that is a genuine memory. So don't get confused. And then the issue of Mandela effect versus physics, it's starting to get a little convoluted on that point. And so people are saying, Well, any action you take, if you stroke a cat, you've created another alternate reality. And so if I choose to go to this grocery store instead of that one, if I choose to take this job instead of that job, or not getting any work right now, then that's another reality, and each of those become a reality. Well, this is what you could call a linear parallel universe timeline, a linear thing, where this isn't necessarily sliding from one reality to the next, where you may be in a timeline where you took a job at a Walmart instead of taking a job in a McDonald's. You had two choices. You had two people saying, we will hire you, and so Walmart said, I will hire you, and McDonald's said, I will hire you, and so you took Walmart and you went to Walmart. And what happened there was, you looked back into your past, and you can still remember President Obama was president. You can still remember the Columbia shuttle disaster of 2003. You can still, and you're going to be saying this alongside everybody else who says the same thing. Yeah, I remember that too. And you're going to remember a lot of it. You're going to remember the events you have of your family you grew up with are going to be the same things. Well, you may be in another reality where you took that Walmart job. You're in a linear progression of parallel multi-worlds motion and movement. And we're going to cross that tonight. How are the aliens, and we're going to say that the aliens are moving us between parallel Earths and sliding between parallel Earths, parallel realities is a vastly different concept than natural linear progression multi-Earth motions. So the motion in that direction is moving like this, where it may branch off. You're still sharing the same history with everyone. So don't get confused on that. Don't get lost and think, well, every day we fall into different realities all the time. Well, this Mandela effect suggests something vastly different. It's called sliding from a completely different set of history and events from one Earth reality into another Earth reality, and the slide, we're going to say, is this direction, going left to right, kind of, or right to left, kind of moving this way, rather than running longitudinal through past, present, future. We're sliding literally over to another Earth reality, where, say, for example, Princess Diana never died, or John F. Kennedy never was assassinated, or the Challenger never blew up, the Columbia never was disintegrated, things like this. Or you never got divorced, or your friend from school many years ago is simply not dead. Okay, so that's very important to make that distinction about sliding as opposed to linear progression in physics. And so Mandela effect covers the sliding phenomena, going left to right, a very dramatic effect from one Earth reality sliding to my side here, if you will, into another. So I took some notes here tonight. I didn't want to be just trying to off the top of my head for you. We're going to talk about a couple of, there are some documentaries out right now on space-time physics covering Einstein's work. And you can look up the videos on YouTube. This takes from Dr. Quantum, a cartoon version of a professor teaching physics to young people. And so, for me to start off with this point, I have to first give you some background. And first I'll give you the first introduction of what I've come to, what I have found from my observation. And that briefly talks about I'll give you the introduction, then I'll go into more detail. So we'll first talk about the concept of now, or my now, my present time, and your present time. We'll both agree our clocks tick the same rate. But though time is not a constant, my now and your now here on planet Earth more or less is going to be about the same, roughly the same. So although I'm in a different time zone here in London, in England, you may be in America or somewhere in Europe or Eastern Europe or in China or in Asia somewhere, wherever you may be. We have the same now. Our now, we can agree that our clock's ticking at the same rate. We're in more or less sync with each other, within microseconds off. When aliens take us and then they're returning us to a parallel Earth, an alien abduction and contact phenomena. We'll talk about two planets, we'll say 10 light years apart, and the slice of time, and how if you had your alien friend 10 light years away, say he rides away from you on, say, a bicycle, that small difference increases over a great deal of time, over the 10 light years, into a much larger degrees in time. From your perception, it's his past, and from the other way around, it's his future. So getting into that, now when you go into higher dimensions, because these aliens are existing in higher dimensions, in higher realities, and the motion of physics in these higher dimensions is moving in directions that are parallel to the third and fourth dimension as we understand it. So I can't point in the direction that they're moving in because it's another dimension. It's a higher dimension above me and you. And so the motion is moving differently in that regard. And so when they're bringing us back here, we're being slid into parallel Earths, not to the past or the future. And I'm going to get into that just for a minute. When they return us to Earth, they do so from a position in another space-time. But they move parallel to any direction that we can point to down here in the third dimension. For this reason, when they bring us back to Earth, we won't ever return to the reality we knew, but we return to another Earth reality due to the fact they were moving in another higher dimension along a direction that was counteracting against all our known directions, correlating to access points in the third and fourth dimension. These directions will move you not to the past or future upon your return, but to another parallel Earth. Space-time is a four-dimensional structure. Past, present, and future is only an illusion. Change your concept of now. Think of all events you think are happening in the now. Lay along a single slice of space-time. You and I will agree what is happening in the now, moment to moment. Einstein pointed out that when you take motion into account, this common sense of notion of now goes away. Thinking of space-time as a loaf of bread, we can cut into slices. There are ways we can cut space-time into different angles of now slices. Because motion affects what is happening, someone's conception of now will vary from another observer's. Their slices will be at different angles. Two beings at different parts of the galaxy, not moving, will share the same now slice, parallel to each other. So like right across from each other. Like cutting bread straight across the loaf. Now, if your alien gets on a bike and rides away from Earth on his planet, motion slows the passage of time. Now your clocks no longer tick of time at the same rate as before with each other. If clocks no longer agree, their now slices no longer agree either. The aliens now, the now slice for the alien cuts through the loaf differently, not straight across but at an angle. It angles towards your past on Earth. But because the alien's angle is small on his world, but over great distances of space and time, that angle as it reaches Earth equates to a huge angle by the time it reaches Earth. The alien's now slice, as he looks at Earth, now coincides with events in Earth's distant past, several hundred years or thousands of years into the past. Now, if our alien friend turning around and bikes towards Earth, the alien's new sense of now slice is angled towards hundreds of years into Earth's future. Once you realize that your now is just as valid as my now, then the past and future are both real. Because motion affects what is happening, someone's conception of now will vary from another observer's. Their slices will be at different angles. Two beings at different parts of the universe, not moving, will share the same now slices parallel to each other, like cutting straight across the loaf of bread. So the bread loaf becomes kind of the, we cut like a normal slice, and if we cut that direction, that's the future. Cut that direction, that's the past, and the loaf of bread represents space-time in that sense. All realities exist, too, side by side. Now we talk about flatlanders, the world of two dimensions, forward and back, right and left, no up or down. In two-dimensional worlds, they have no concept of three-dimensional objects. Two-dimensional people have no understanding of cubes, spheres, tetrahedrons, and so on. Or you and me, for that example. If I poke my finger into their world, a weird hole would seem to appear from nowhere. Flatlanders do not see beyond their boundaries. That means what they have, like these flatlander, very no up and down, but a thin line that they can't see beyond. They can't see beyond the boundaries of their walls. But they coexist alongside other flatlanders out of their sight, who also are equally them in every sense, but moving along different histories. And I'm using two-dimensional people and flatlanders to represent us in the third dimension for the sake of this video. Higher dimensions have motion also, like the fifth dimension, the sixth dimension, and seventh dimension. That motion affects their concept of their present now. So my son was waking up, sorry. Cats are running around. So I was saying that motion affects their concept of now in the higher dimensions. Or in this case, we will call it present Earth reality history, as we know it. So the present Earth history, as they look down at us from the higher dimensions, they see all of Earth's parallel Earth histories at the same time. And that's kind of difficult to understand something like that. There's supposed to be an infinite number of these things. But from higher dimensional perspective, these aliens can look down and see all these other Earth histories. Now, maybe not all at once. Perhaps they have to travel through the fifth and sixth dimension along some plane we can't point into to see all these other parallel Earths. When they're dealing with us and picking us up, even they are affected by the laws of motion in higher dimensions. They can't escape that either. Time passes, the fifth dimension time, seventh dimension time is a motion moving in those dimensions, up there as well as it is here in the fourth dimension. We are in the construct of the fourth dimension time, and its motion governs the third dimension. Okay, so in that respect, when I'm an alien, I pick you up, and I take you, we'll say old Bart Simpson here. So I picked Bart up and moved him into a higher dimension, kept him for a while. When I brought Bart back to Earth, he ended up in a parallel Earth than the one he started from. And that's because the concept of now was altered for Bart as he was affected by the motion, not of the third and fourth dimension as normally would be for him, but from the motion and the movement of a passage of time in a higher dimensional space. And the evidence of that is because Bart then says, hey, wait a minute, Homer has hair, where I remember he didn't have hair. And so Bart's a little freaked out by that thought. And he says, wait a minute, I remember other things here that are a little weird, a little freaked out. And so he's not sure what to make of this. And so Bart kind of jumps about thinking, hey, I had a sister named Lisa too. Well, where'd she go? What's going on here? Hey man, what's going on? Hey man, don't have a cow, man. Cowabunga. And he's like hopping around. Because his memory is different. And it is a real memory. Again, physics says, my now is as valid as your now. The past is as valid as the future. Einstein pointed that out. There's the facts in physics. There it is. Fact. Cold hard fact. That all these times agree, though the clocks tick differently, they're all valid. These are all valid memories. These are all valid experiences and valid real memories. It's not implanted in the head or someone hypnotized it or they conjured it up through mental illness. It's way beyond that. The evidence that poor little Bart here was picked up by aliens is because Bart, and taken to a higher dimension, and it's from a parallel Earth, is because Bart remembers things differently. Think about it. So the Mandela effect, in this sense, is explained using the fundamental laws of physics you already know, the laws of physics already known in higher dimensional physics, and everything, if you wrote it out in an equation, it's equal on both ends of the equation, what I brought you here, and balances out as a proper equation, and there it is. There's your Mandela effect. There's the evidence also. Hard evidence of alien abduction and alien contact on planet Earth in the 21st century. That people remember history differently. And that also implies, and it is true and correct, that people like myself are in fact from, without sensationalizing this, but yes, we're from another parallel Earth. We slid sideways. We're literally from another Earth, a parallel Earth. And I have the evidence in the book I wrote. I have the evidence in my experiences, and I know these things are real. I know that those are mine now. It's not like my truth in some philosophic sense. It's a fact. Those events I remember happened. They happened. They're real. But they're not in the history of this Earth. And the evidence, as I've just explained in the last 24 minutes, is right there. So thank you for watching this video. I hope it was informative. I hope it helped maybe in the research of the Mandela effect. You know, there are probably going to be several ways. I know Stephen Hawking, before he died, was working on a paper, a mathematical paper, to help find parallel realities. One, prove they exist, and a way to find them using satellites that the observatories that orbit the Earth in space, to how to find the parallel, the evidence of parallel realities in the universe through cosmology and astronomy. No, I stand corrected. He finished that paper. He finished it. I'm sorry. He finished it before he died. He lived in Cambridge, not more than 45 miles from where I'm sitting right now. Just 45 miles away. He was a master. He was a genius. He was a great mind. One of the great Einsteins of our age. Rest in peace, Stephen. And so this video is in dedication to you, sir. Thank you.